Ladies and gentlemen, greetings. In today's video, we go a little deeper into the evil history of our educational system. Since the dawn of time, man has always sought enlightenment in our ceaseless efforts to gain wisdom and get a grasp on the unknown, treading the uncharted. We've gone wrong so many times, perhaps learning things we shouldn't know. But in today's video, we're going to go a little deeper into the conversation on the history. Kill the lightning. Okay. You guys probably won't see the many takes of this. But yeah, let's get into the video. The title of the video is The Evil History of Our Educational System, and it's a video from Jake Tran. Yeah, so let's get right into that, shall we? Make sure I'm recording with this on the net. Okay, let's do this.
So you're John D. Rockefeller in the late 1800s, and you have a big problem. It's the Industrial Revolution, and you have this giant oil empire, but you simply can't find enough wage slaves to keep the wheels turning.
Okay. I actually had no idea which direction this video was gonna go, but off to an interesting start. Okay, let's see what Mr. John D. Rockefeller came up with.
Unlike today where you can just make a job post online and a bunch of educated laborers will come flocking your way, back then most of America was rural. Most of America lived simple lives on farms. They were homeschooled, they went to schools ran by churches. They didn't know how to work a factory job or at an oil refinery. They weren't conditioned to clock in and out. So you needed a way to educate the population on a massive scale so they could come work for you. However, we don't want to educate them too much now, do we? Remember, knowledge is dangerous. There's a reason why slaves weren't allowed to learn how to read or write. So if you're gonna educate the masses, you have to tread very carefully. Teach them too much and they'll become too ambitious, too independent. They'll think for themselves. They'll become your competitors. Instead, you want to teach them just enough so they can keep your empire running with a happy, obedient smile on their face. So what did you do? You helped pioneer the American public school system. All of a sudden, every parent could just send their kids off to a free public school funded by good old Rockefeller. To the rest of the world, you looked like a saint. You were giving free education to all those uncivilized, ignorant Americans. But you and I know the truth. By dangling the prospect of free education in front of millions of American parents, you were able to trick them into relinquishing their children to the state. That way, for 8 to 12 years of a child's most formative years, you get to condition them to be exactly who you want them to be. You get to decide what they
Okay. I will interject at this point. So I'm coming at this from an outside perspective. I grew up in Nigeria, and I don't know exactly where this video is going, but I'm worried that it might be like overly cynical of the educational system in America. Like, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I feel like the portrayal of it at this point, it sounds like really bad. I think there's great benefit in having an educated population in any society, right? But yes, there might be some self-interest in educating them in only the ways you want them to be educated, right? But I still think that is better than the alternative of no education at all. And like you said, it's like in their formative years, right? Kids are better, I believe kids are better off learning to read and write, learning, some coordination, how to interact with everybody. And I think the school provides a lot of benefits for children growing up. And even if they are not learning how to read between the lines and understand the various mechanics that makes the world they live in function, I feel like equipping them with at least the foundational tools to step out into the world and do something, I think that is also important. There is a but. I don't even want to go into it right now. I'll go into it right now. It's an 18 minutes video. We can make it 43 minutes. Okay, so there is a downside to that also, because it gets to a point where um like the things that we're educating kids about, maybe it no longer becomes relevant to the world that they currently live in. So for example, like at the time, there was a period of time where learning which herbs are good and which herbs are not good, learning how to like walk a plow and like fix a tractor would have been like very important skills for like people to learn. Like, right, learning that 2 plus 2 is 4 and 4 times 2 is 8, like very, very important skills to learn. How to read like a digital, no, I mean the analog clock, like it's very important because it's something they need to do every day. But that is not going to always be the case. Like at this point, I'm pretty sure I saw a clip where like students in high school can't read the analog clock. And it's like, yeah, like, yeah, it's like, it's been good for them to be able to read it, but analog clocks are going to be extinct just in a matter of time. Wait, you know what? Let me let the video go, because I'm thinking of other things that would contradict what I'm currently thinking now, and I think I'm just rambling off on an off tangent. So let's just get back on track.
Learn and don't learn. You get to decide how they see the world. You get to condition them to be scared, to be fearful, to be obedient, to not chase after their dreams, to accept mediocrity. You get to teach them that if they don't follow orders exactly to the T, they are a failure.
I can't believe it.
B is for bitch!
Because these are the traits that make for a good laborer. And it works. By giving every American access to free, standardized
Yeah, but like, how much of that can we put on the educational system versus the parents, right? Like the pressure to like have good grades and everything. If it wasn't something that the parents perceived as valuable, they probably wouldn't send their kids there. And even if they send their kids there and they don't believe it's valuable, if the kids don't perform well in school, it's no skin off their bones. They wouldn't really care. But a lot of people wanted their kids to do well in school because of the opportunities that doing well in school then provides. Now we are in a situation where doing well in school doesn't necessarily provide you those advantages. And I think we're coming to realize that, maybe going into debt to go to college might not be worth it for everyone in the long run. But there was a time where guaranteed you go to college, it's a good decision every single time, and that worked for a while until it didn't. So yeah, if you have any like handy skills or anything, you might want to consider that. It could be good. It could pay well.
public education, you were able to solve the labor problem in America. Now, every generation that came after it would go into school filled with innocence, creativity, and joy, and they would come out of school as an obedient worker that doesn't want to rock the boats. Workers who are perfectly happy making their employers rich.
Education system is predicated on the idea of academic ability. And there's a reason. The whole system was invented around the world. There were no public systems of education really before the 19th century. They all came into being to meet the needs of industrialism.
Ah yes, our entire education system today was created.
That's not entirely true. So public education is something that has been going on for as long as people have been learning to do stuff. So the public education as we know it now, that it's like more centralized and more organized by the state, is a completely different thing. I think that's what he's referring to. But the idea of a community sort of like a community table of contents that children need to learn, that's like the community comes to agrees that okay, this is what these kids need to learn to carry the torch on after we are gone. It's been going on for forever, like even like under like religious circles, like sending the kids to the mosques to go learn and something like that. Even before like learning mathematics, people even from the time from like Aristotle and stuff, people were sending their kids to like the town square where like the old philosopher will educate them, and they like they study the stars and study this. Like there was something like that. So, well, okay, no, because even in those cases, it wasn't like general for everybody. It was like specific curriculums for people who have certain interests. So they were like arts people who teach other people art, and astronomers who teach other people astronomy, and philosophers who had like students and prodigies and people that they also bring up and educate in that way. So it wasn't like everybody's learning the same thing. Everybody just kind of learned the things that they believed would help them to grow. Okay, yeah, all right.
Because John D. Rockefeller needed more workers. But it wasn't just Rockefeller. No, loads of other rich American tycoons poured billions of dollars into creating the modern-day education system we have today. These are the same wealthy dynasties behind big oil, big food, big pharma, and they all wanted to provide you with free conditioning, education, while they send their kids to private schools. As Rockefeller once said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers."
Okay.
These
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I take back what I said about it being too cynical. If you actually said those words, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Yeah, okay, yeah. Except a country wants to rely on leadership by way of tyranny or coercion of some sort, either through the ignorance of the people or the powerlessness of the people. You want a nation of thinkers, but people who have power and want to maintain that power tend not to want a nation of thinkers. The same thing with like the old Roman Catholic Empire, where like the printing press was banned or like they didn't want people reading, because if you could read, then you will know that what they've been telling you the book says has been wrong all along, and they've just been bamboozling and hoodwinking the people. So yeah, you definitely want a nation of thinkers, not just workers, if you want a productive society of innovative individuals that can think past the problems of the problems of history, and like understand what is going on in the present as they are growing up and they are perceiving the world that they are going to grow to inherit. You want them to be able to be equipped to handle things very well, so they don't burn it down by accident when they're like dropped with the responsibility with no formal training or anything. Like, oh yep, you're grown up now, make good decisions. We out, peace. Yeah, you want a nation of thinkers is my point.
are the dark origins of our education system and why you want to stay dangerous.
For generations, experts tended to blame failing schools on failing neighborhoods, but reformers have begun to believe the opposite, that the problems of failing neighborhoods might be blamed on failing schools.
I like the guy's voice. Sounds very presenter, narrator like.
I'd like for this country to have a real education president for a change.
Tell
I'd
him.
like to be the education president.
I don't ever expect to sign my name to any law that is more important than the Education Act in 1965.
The day of reckoning is here.
Tell him.
If you watch this channel, you're probably serious about gaining money and power, which is great. But if you're gonna do that,
We are. Oh. I didn't know that. I just thought the title was interesting. Okay.
you're gonna need a great wallet that can keep up with your ambitions. And the wallet I've been using every single day for the past 3 years is my Exter wallet. Exter is the smartest wallet out there that has been seen on Forbes, Hypebeast, BuzzFeed, and I absolutely love mine. It's got a quick access trigger that is super satisfying to use. You can spend an hour just fidgeting with it. It's RFID blocking, it's got a strap for cash, but my favorite part is that it still looks really classy while having all these features. Other minimalist and smart wallets out there work, but they make you look really tacky. Whereas this one is made out of real premium LWG silver rated leather, which is why to this day I still get a ton of compliments on it. And as you can see, it's held up pretty well for over 3 years of abuse. The one I have is their Senate model, which is the one I recommend. It's got the perfect balance, and you can choose from a few different leather colors. I love giving these out as gifts because nothing says I believe in you more than giving someone a high-end wallet for them to store all the money they're gonna make in. And for a limited time, get up to 25% off site-wide when you shop using the link shop.exter.com/JakeTran or use my code JakeTran at checkout. So pause the video and get 25% off with the link below. Thanks to Exter for sponsoring this video.
Alright, shout out to
The origins
Exter.
of the American education system can be traced back to something called the Prussian Empire. The Prussian Empire is the empire that made up modern-day Germany, and these Prussians were geniuses at controlling the masses. See, in the late 1700s, Prussia invaded Poland, and they won. Prussia now occupied Poland, but the Prussians now faced a new problem. Sure, they controlled Poland, but how were they gonna get the Polish people to accept their new German rulers? They were the colonizers, the enemy, and yet somehow they needed to get the entire population to throw away their Polish identity and to accept Imperial German nationalism. But the Prussians weren't stupid. They knew they had no chance in changing the minds of the adults. The adults were proud Polish people. They were set in their ways. There's no hope in converting them. But the children? The Polish children were much more moldable. And if they could attack the children, they could decimate Polish culture in just one generation. So, Prussia created a new 8-year education system, where for 8 years kids would go to school and learn things like reading and writing, but they would also learn how to listen to orders. They would learn how to do as they're told.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, now we're really cooking. The reason for my reaction, why I have such a strong reaction to this, is because there's so many parallels to what happened in Africa. Like I know with like the I'll talk briefly about like the countries that were colonized by France. Like they adopted a policy of assimilation, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So basically what that is that they educated, or more like re-educated, the people to be of more French culture, or more Frenchly in their behavior. So you learn their culture, you learn their language, you learn their mannerisms. It's part of the educational process that they brought for you to be able to fit in your country, but they run things now since they colonized the country. So like you then have to take on their culture, and then of course you have to understand that your culture is, you know, barbaric and not as nice as theirs. So you should be grateful for them giving you the privilege of this. And the same thing happened in countries that were colonized by Britain, like my country. So in Britain, it was kind of a little bit different, at least in my country, because they used two different systems, like the direct and indirect. So the direct system was in tribes that had like a very strong central governing body, like an emir, who is like a king or a monarch that everybody listens to and no questions asked. So the more totalitarian tribes had a direct approach, because once you can convince the king or the monarch about it, you don't need to convince everybody. Everybody just listens to what the king, because it's like a god to them. And in the other places that were more like democratic, or more of a republic, where like there's a council of elders, and then you have to like go to checks and balances, those kind of thing, they use an indirect thing. So like the people wouldn't listen to them, but they would listen to the council of elders. So you just, if you like get a few of them on board, and then they run things. And part of the things they did bring was the educational system. The flip side of that was the educational system initially was not even available to Nigerians, because they didn't want anybody getting educated. So that's the difference between like the way France did it and the way Britain did it. But eventually it was the educated people that then started like fighting for freedoms, because those pesky free thinking people wanting freedom for themselves and their country, you know, bah humbug. But eventually it was the educated elites that they fought for independence for the respective countries. Like we kind of like fumbled the bag since then with various schools and all, but that's a different story. My point is the educational part of it. So the education does play a good role, a strong role in changing the culture of a whole nation or of a whole country. Like what you teach the kids in school, even grown-ups, what you teach them, the religion and the culture, the way of talking, the things that are bad and the things that are good, a lot of it actually does come from the school. Dang. Wow.
To respect the authority of their Prussian leaders. And this new Prussian education system worked. One Prussian philosopher brilliantly described their education model by writing,
"Education should be aimed at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of..."
Oh my god, this is diabolical. What is going on? Education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking. Guys, I think they might have had evil intentions.
Thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. When the technique has been perfected, every government that has been in charge of education for more than one generation will be able to control its subjects securely, without the need of armies or policemen.
It was as poetic as it was true. Basically, if you want a submissive population that you can rule over, you have to destroy their free will. You have to condition them not to think. Thinking is the enemy, and you have to start this conditioning when they're as young as possible. So, every Polish and Prussian child was required to attend school for 8 years. 8 years where day in and day out, these kids were force-fed so much Prussian patriotism that by the time they left school, obedience to the Prussian monarchy was the only reality they knew. The Prussian system was so effective that it caught the eye of one person, an influential American politician by the name of Horace Mann. And Horace Mann planned on exporting this Prussian model to the good old US of A.
It's a little bit immature for me to make this joke, but you know, Horace Mann. It sounds like the name of a classic evil villain. Like if I just saw the name on paper and someone said that's the name of a new evil villain character I'm developing, I'd be like, yeah, that's a menacing name if I've ever heard one.
Horace Mann was passionate about reforming American education. It was his life's duty. So in 1843, he traveled across Europe visiting schools to get ideas. But no education system impressed him more than the Prussian model. To him, the Prussian model was a work of art. Here was the roadmap to molding children into anything the elite wanted. If the Prussian model could remove every single trace of Polish culture, what could it do for America? With the Prussian model, it wouldn't matter if kids were Protestant, Catholic, Black, an immigrant, Native American, or even atheists, because we would be able to permanently instill patriotism, duty, and hard work into all of them. And with Horace Mann's political influence, tax-funded public schools following the Prussian model slowly started popping up all over America. And slowly but surely, parents, teachers, those in charge, and society as a whole started to accept the Prussian model as the only sensible way to educate the youth. Instead of one big class, schools were divided into separate classes for kids of different ages. Horace also wanted mainly women to be the teachers, which is why women dominate the teaching field today. Teachers were even sent to Prussia to learn firsthand how their system worked. Authorities bought into the Prussian model so much that by 1864, Congress made it illegal for Native American kids to be taught in their native languages. Instead, they were sent to faraway boarding schools so teachers could kill the Indian to save the man. By the end of the 1800s, the Prussian...
Damn. Wow. Guys, please cut me some slack, because I'm kind of like thinking through it as I'm talking. I don't really have like a cohesive like train of thought on this issue. I'm just kind of like thinking through it as we're watching along. Yikes. and this goes back to what I was saying earlier with like the French system of assimilation, I believe, is like it was under that same mentality that is more like kill the native to save the man. So like, you know, the native is not man, really, it's more savage, more beast-like, but teaching them the proper culture, the French culture, will make them more acceptable life forms in the new society that they are trying to build. Yikes. The British as far as Nigeria is concerned, they didn't really care about our education. Just like as long as they could get what they wanted, they didn't really need, you know, to go through like trying to educate us in their ways. They did do that though through religion, separate story. But yeah, religion played a huge role in the re-education of a lot of African countries as we know it.
Prussian model had taken over America, and by 1900, almost every American state made public school mandatory, meaning that you had to give up your kid to the states or get the kid taken away from you and thrown in prison. Horace Mann changed the face of American public education forever, but the public school system wasn't in its final form yet, because as much as the Prussian model did wonders for the governments, it still didn't do much for businessmen like you. And as John D. Rockefeller, you also saw the power of the Prussian model on the masses, and you plan on systematically infiltrating it.
Why is everyone in the US going crazy over this portable heater? With inflation at an all-time high, heating your home might just become a luxury. But thanks to this new invention,
By the late 1800s, school was mandatory. They were using the Prussian model, but there was still a giant problem. There wasn't any standard curriculum to follow. So most kids ended up learning nothing that would make them useful in an oil refinery, mine, or factory. It doesn't matter how submissive or obedient they are, if they don't have the baseline education
wait
needed
a minute. So there wasn't even a curriculum. It was just more like a boot camp to whip them up into obedient soldiers. It wasn't even really educating for any specific curriculum or anything like that. Wow. So I think about what I said about it not being the first public school, because as in of this form, yes, it probably was the first at that time.
Labor, you needed submissive, obedient workers that were also educated to your standards, educated on how work will set them free. So what did you do? You went to your closest confidant, a man named Friedrich T. Gates, and together the two of you created the General Education Board. On the outside, the General Education Board sounded like this very official government board that looked over the education system in America. And that's exactly the vibe you were going for, when in reality, you just created this thing out of thin air and named it the General Education Board. That is the power of a great name. And a year later, thanks to your connections in Washington, the General Education Board went official. It was incorporated by an act of Congress in 1903 with the purpose of the promotion of education in the United States of America without distinction to race, sex, or creed. A very noble sounding cause. While at the same time, this entity would be your Trojan horse to inject more than $3.5 billion in today's money into the public school system. Today, a few $1 billion wouldn't make a dent in the monstrosity that is our public school system. But back then, it was still in its infancy, so $3.5 billion was way more than enough to mold it into whatever you wanted. So with the money and the government charter in hand, the board went on to fund a vast number of public high schools, 912 high schools in the southern states alone by 1914. You also funded universities, medical schools, Ivy League schools, so that when kids finished their conditioning in high school, they would continue their conditioning in higher education. These are the origins of America's love affair with college degrees, by the way.
College graduation has never been more valuable than it is today.
And soon other business tycoons started jumping in on the action. By 1905, Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, founded the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. Not because he wanted people to learn about the world and become innovators, but because he needed mine managers, operators, engineers, repairmen, smelters, and railroad conductors. And the public started to catch on all this big money moving into education. In 1914, the National Education Association said that
we view with alarm the activity of the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, agencies not in any way responsible to the people, in their efforts to control the policies of our state educational institutions, to fashion after their conception and to standardize our courses of study, and to surround the institutions with conditions which menace true academic freedom.
But your infiltration of education had picked up too much steam, too much momentum. There was no way it was gonna
Funny you should mention too much steam. I know that's not what it meant, but I think a lot of it has to do with industrialization, you know, the invention of the steam engine. So, like, the kind of skills needed and the kind of knowledge needed and the amount of people with said knowledge needed drastically increased. So there was suddenly a huge demand for a particular kind of worker that didn't exist in the past, and all these people with enough resources started like fumbling around for ways to fill that need, right? So in the past, before industrialization, everything was more like small scale, let's say small scale farming, small scale productions and everything. So the kind of knowledge people were being taught were the things that were useful for them at the time. Like, okay, you're 10 years old, yeah, you can work on the farm, that kind of thing. And you know which plants where, you know when to put the scarecrow down so the birds don't go, you know, like you have to like do some kind of planting in the rain, so that while you are planting, the birds are not flying around and trying to like pick up the corn. Like you learn all those things from a very young age, and those are the things that you also teach to your kids so that they can also become productive in society. But the Industrial Revolution was such a drastic shift in like the direction or like the scope of human capabilities at the time that a lot of things changed drastically. So think of this like, instead of teaching people how to like spin cotton or like spin wool with the machine by hand, you suddenly had like these machines that could do it. You had like steam trains being made, all those kind of things. So you needed people, and you needed a lot of people, and you needed them to know what they are doing. And of course, you know, you don't want them to be like grumbling and wanting unions and fair wages, those kind of things. You want them to just come in, do their jobs, you know, and, you know, let everybody, you know, be happy. And as bad as that sounds, I feel like that's actually the story of human history. That's how it has always been. Even before in the industrialization, is like the kings and the like feudalistic systems of government where people work on land that don't belong to them, but they work and they get like compensated for their work that they do on the Lord's farm. So I don't mean like the Lord like God, I mean the Lord like the lords of the land. So it's like, yes, you just want them to do the job and then they can go back to their houses and you pay them, that kind of thing. But when you now have machines and you need people to work on those machines, then you need to find a way to teach them what they need to know as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible. And it also helps if, you know, you don't have to deal with pesky free will getting in the way of productivity. So, you know, that's also a good incentive. That's why slavery has always been a good thing. It's like, oh, more manpower, they don't get a say, they just got to do the job, and we don't really have to spend too much on them, just as long as they know what to do. But slavery in this case has to be different because it requires specific knowledge that didn't exist a few years ago. So that's why the educational system must have changed so quickly into this large scale. It's almost like the same way the assembly line was invented with cars, with Ford, like also factory workers were being churned out from assembly lines from schools also to meet the demand of the new world that we've built. So in that way, there are definitely the dark side and the greed motivation for it, but at the same time, I don't think it is all too different from what existed before it. It's just a different set of needs that require them to go a different route to fill said needs. And even now, things are changing, and those kind of workers are becoming less in demand. So people who just put their head down and do the job are actually less in demand than they used to be. That's why you see all these big companies just laying off workers, because, like, you know, most of these things are automated already. We don't really need you there, like, breathing and, you know, being like a human. But the machines can do it. Zeros and ones, binary codes, settles the issue. You don't have to worry about union, don't worry about sick days. You just get the job done, easy peasy. Pack your bags and leave me in PC. I'll try to make that rhyme. It didn't work out.
Slow down now. By 1918, every single state started requiring kids to complete elementary school, and it just picked up from there. From standardized tests to the Carnegie-funded textbooks to the department.
And I actually think that's a good thing. I truly believe that education is a very good thing. And like what I said earlier about, like, the educated elite being the ones to fight for freedom for Nigeria. Like, education is powerful, and having an educated youth and educated young population is a good way to set up a country or a society for success. There are other factors that also need to be in place, like a stable society where people have upward mobility and hope for the future. Those are very also crucial. So we can't, like, just educate them and be like, well, you know, you guys are all doomed anyway. There's nothing you can do. The sky is falling. You guys are, you know, not going to really make an impact before you walk off this mortal coil. But anyway, here's all this knowledge. Go out there and live your life. You know, that's also a recipe for chaos for a society also. So it is hope, purpose, and education. So you're making educated guesses basically on what you are doing in life, because nobody really knows, but at least you will be able to, like, see things a bit clearly as far as you know, and operate in that light. Yeah.
Department of Education to labeling and medicating kids that don't do well in this Rockefeller model of education. And your boy free
medicating? Okay, that's problematic. That sounds that sounds like a problem.
T. Gates, who you created the General Education Board with, put it perfectly when he explained what he envisioned for America's education system.
In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill onto a great.
Now this is where the dark and grimy thing really sets in. And unhampered by tradition, we work our own goodwill to a graceful and responsive rural folk. So this is like the weaponization of education, in the sense that I'm not telling you the things you need to know. I'm telling you the things I want you to know, and withholding some information. And unhampered by tradition, I feel like that's a problem for any society. I feel like society kind of needs to be hampered by tradition for it to last long. That's why social constructs are a thing. Social constructs are a thing because for a long period of time, people have decided that that's a way to construct society, and a society without construct falls apart because, you know, it's unconstructed. So when you are unhampered by tradition, it's not going to end well. I'll just say that.
Full and responsive rural folk. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning.
Wait, are these things that these are actual quotes, or is it like basically somebody interpreting or paraphrasing what they said or what they meant? Because if these are actual quotes from like documents that these people wrote, this is a diabolical thing. You know what, after the video I'm going to see if it like cites the sources, and I'm going to actually like do some sleuthing of my own, because I'm really curious. Like, damn, this is dark.
science? We are not to raise up among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor will we cherish even the humbler ambition.
This is reminding me of, you know, an episode of Phineas and Ferb. If you know, you know. The episode where they're like, they say imagination is morally wrong. If you know, you know. But yeah, this is sounding extremely totalitarian. Like, if I saw a guy with a funny mustache speaking German, you know, and in like 1945 making a statement like this, it would track very well. Like, yeah, it sounds like something he would say, but whoa.
To raise up among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply.
That is the education system Rockefeller wanted. One that didn't.
But that's like almost the opposite of educational system as it used to be before this system. It was like, I can't really remember, but they were basically like educational systems where people actually learned things for the purpose of making them into artisans, philosophers, and like thinkers, right? That is what was valued at a certain point in history. I can't really give you the date. I'm not an history buff like that, but I have a vague idea of a big summary. Like I read the back of the book, but for real, like it used to be like learning to be like thinkers and philosophers, like artists, and that's what was valued at the time. Not just machines that perform a task and don't need to be that don't question anything. Yo.
Search for the intrinsic gifts endowed in each of us, one that didn't pump out philosophers, authors, artists, or musicians. No, our modern-day education system was designed for one thing and one thing only: to pump out mindless, thoughtless, standardized, dare I say it, slaves. John D. Rockefeller put it even more succinctly. He said, I don't...
This picture is not very flattering for him. Pardon me, sir. Like, in this context, this is terrible PR for you, sir. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like the face of a good guy. I know you don't want to judge a book by its cover, but I'm doing it. It's my channel. Sir.
I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. And if you look around today with all this fear, all this debt, all these years of education, and yet you come out not even knowing the basic fundamentals of how to survive in this world, like how to find a lifelong partner, save, make money, invest, and file taxes, when you look around and see all of this, I'd say that Rockefeller got exactly what he...
Do you think you have what it takes to make like it never even happened happen? Then you belong at the #1 brand and
he won.
Yeah, I don't lose my train of thought on this. Again, like I'm saying, like this aspect of it, of educating people, but they don't really know the inner workings of the government or like the machinery that moves their society forward. It's always been like that for as long as recorded history has been. It's like people in power, like imagine like the farmers in like the old feudal systems, right? And like they're doing their thing, they are farming, they pay their taxes and tributes to the king and whatnot. They don't really know why they are going to war. They don't really have a say in who's going to be the next crown prince. They don't really have a say when their kids are going to get drafted to war. They're just working and trying to make a living day in and day out. So it's not really that different from what we have from then to at this time when this video is being made, and even up until this day. Is like the masses, the majority, are educated with the bare fundamentals of what they need to eke out a living and, you know, get by. And only a few people, like if history is anything to go by, only a few people actually get the luxury of exploring other like different aspects of education and like go beyond that and still deep think and those kind of things. And if history is anything to go by, the people in power tend not to like those people. They're people who think too much, ask too many questions, want to be too innovative, rocking the boat and whatnot. We don't want that, like was it Aristotle or Socrates? Well, one of them, they had him like commit suicide by drinking like hemlock, which is poison, basically. Jesus Christ, they had to get him out of here. Like, he was doing way too many free thinking. It was going off script. So it's like, there's a script that, you follow the script and everything works fine. But the problem with that is life doesn't always follow a script and things change on the dime. And if the people are not adapted to go with the different changing times, and they are only know how to function within a script, when the script switches, everybody's like, what do we do now? Nobody can think on their feet. Nobody is spontaneous because it has been grinded out of them from an early age, or at the bare minimum has not been encouraged and built up. So yeah. And I was gonna say something. It will come back to me later, maybe as I watch the video.
So now that you know that society is systematically designed to get you to slave away forever, how do you escape this? You escape it by finding a way to make a lot of money, and yet you come out not even knowing the basic fundamentals of how to survive in this world, like how to find a lifelong partner, save, make money, invest, and file taxes. When you look around and see all of this, I'd say.
So, on the thing of like making money, finding a life partner, and paying taxes, I'll take finding a life partner out because that's a more social aspect, but like more like things you learn by facts and numbers, like paying taxes, learning what to vote and who to vote for and what issues are available and other things. Those fall under the category of things that has never really been available to the majority of people for the majority of history. But at the same time, like, I don't think the lack of those things are strong enough points to discount the merits of education, of the educational system that we do have now. I feel like there's a lot of things that are learned in school that kids need to know how to do. Like when you're reading all this, like you're in school and the teacher is asking you to write a paragraph about how was your weekend, and you're in like 7th grade and it's challenging and the whatnot, but you need to know how to be able to put your thoughts into words. You need to know how to be able to read the text and find what the text is talking about, read in between the lines. So you have a whole text and then there's a questions that are like, you find text-based questions. You can find the answer in the text if you know how to look, and it's training your mind to look. It's training your mind to think. 2 + 2, you're learning those things. I think those are very important for children to be learning at this point in the history, at this point in time. Like, we need to know those things. But the more social things, that's what I was talking about, is like it's like you need both of them. You need hope and purpose for the future. The children need a reason to want to learn these things. So if like you're learning these things so you can go to college, why do I want to go to college? So you can get a job. But my uncle, he graduated college with like 3 PhDs and he's not doing too good. He's on a crushing debt and he's not making that much money. I don't want to be like him. I want to be a YouTuber. I don't really need to do much reading or anything. I just like show up on camera and the money and the millions just flowing. I want to be on TikTok. This guy has 80 billion followers and all he does is dances and stuff. So, like when you're taking away the hope for the future, it's like people don't see the bright light at the end of the tunnel anymore. That causes problems in the educational system, and that causes more like social issues. Like people don't want to try anymore to improve their minds, which is what I think the basic goal of education should be, to train your mind to be able to handle the life that you are currently living in. on, or that the life that is going to come at you as you grow. So with like relationships and stuff, that's a tougher one for me, because I don't really have an answer to that. I feel like there's a lot of things, contributing factors to why a lot of like, because prior to the public school education, it's like, how did guys know how to talk to girls, or how did people find relationships? They kind of had a culture within that they figured it out. It wasn't like a thing that kept everybody up at night. But at this point, it's like we neglect those aspects of life and focusing more on the acquisition of knowledge. But there's more to life than gathering knowledge. You actually have to live. And I think we neglected educating people on how to actually live. And life has changed. A lot of things that we didn't need to know, we need to know them now, like what's a cybersecurity and those kind of things. It's a new world we live in. People need to know these things. So I think new things need to be introduced into the curriculum for people to learn. But I think as it is now, it still provides a lot that people can benefit from. And maybe as time goes by, we find ways to, fix up the mess we've made on the social aspects of our communities, and people get to be more like social and interact more, and not to be so closed off and individualistic, and everybody fan the flames of humanity again, that warm vibrance of like intuition and innovation and uniqueness that people have, to foster that in the society and have people see it in themselves and in the person next to them, and to appreciate what it means to be a human being. It's not just a clump of cells, it's a person, and all the things and chaotic things that make up that person, which are terrifying and beautiful and amazing. And I feel like we neglect that to our own detriment, and we are starting to see the signs already.
Say that Rockefeller got exactly what he wanted. So now that you know that society is systematically designed to get you to slave away forever, how do you escape this? You escape it by finding a way to make a lot of money without having to work super hard like all the other docile workers.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good message. At the same time, I don't think there's some sort of pride to be gained from mindlessly completing menial tasks. Like, okay, I chop wood and I'm chopping wood and I'm a hardworking person. I chop it from morning to night. But, if you could find more efficient ways to chop the wood, or there's a machine that actually chops down like 5 times the wood with 0.5 times the effort, that would be a good idea to also pursue. But I don't think like it just, me personally, like, money is important. You need that to sustain yourself, but I don't think that should be like the primary life goal on your mind, that I want to make as much money as possible, because making as much money as possible, I don't think that's a sufficient goal to like power you through life, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm also privileged in certain ways, so I might be talking out of my own ignorance, but I strongly believe that
And the most practical way to do this is not what you think. The most practical way to do that is with a high-paying work-from-home job. There are work-from-home jobs out there that allow you to make $80,000, $90,000, $100,000.
This is the part I'm gonna have an issue with this video. This is no different from what the other content up to this point has been saying, right? Just because it's a work from home job doesn't mean it's not the same zombie click this button and money coming. It's the same thing as working in the factory at the time, like teaching you what you need to make somebody else more money, and they pay you a portion of that. That's how it has always been. So if you're going to like cast aspersions on the history of education or the educational system and then promote this as a better alternative, they are one and the same as far as I can see. So yeah, a work from home job, I'm not saying it's bad. Work from home jobs are great. If you can get a work from home job that pays you 80,000 per month, yo, go for it, right? But I don't think like that should like you should like idealize that as what will give you fulfillment and accomplishment in life, because it won't. It just gives you more money, but life is still, it still goes beyond that. So what then? Once you make the money, what then? How about you as a person? After making $80,000 a year, you are still going to be you, you know. So yeah, you still have to deal with that and grow.
$1,000 and up while working just a few hours a day from wherever you want. But the reason why you never hear anyone promoting work from home jobs is because pitching you on starting an agency or whatever sounds a lot sexier. But the reality is, although all those business models work, you gotta grind it out for 12 hours a day, 7.
Yeah, actually, I don't even really think that's true. Like in the past, maybe, but now more companies are trying to like, I think like from what I can see, like work from home jobs are coming like in higher demand, and if the mass like deduction in the workforce mass layoffs that have been going on in recent times is anything to go by, it's like people don't really need you working the 9 to 5 in the office anymore. So this is probably a good idea. If you, I don't know where it's going with this, but if it's a good opportunity, you can make a lot of money doing work from home jobs. You know, that may be a good thing to it'd be a good thing to consider and improve yourself, improve your standard of living. But yeah.
Days a week with a very low chance of success. That's why most entrepreneurs end up slaving away more than someone with a 9 to 5. But a work from home job, you get the best of both worlds. The reward without the risk, the flexibility without the grind. And in some cases, you can even make more money than with the business by stacking work from home jobs on top of each other without increasing your workload, also known as overemployment. But the best part about work from home jobs is that truly anyone can land one. Problem is, how do you land one without a degree or experience? Luckily, I figured it out. See, before YouTube, I landed a $40 per hour work from home job at just 19 years old without a degree and barely any experience. That's $80,000 a year at just 19, from home. And this work from home job changed everything for me. It set me up to be where I am today. And the reason I was able to go remote without a degree or experience was because I came up with really innovative strategies that drastically increased my—
Look at that, this is really rubbing me off the wrong way. It's like the information sounds like it's going to be good, but he hasn't really told us what it is yet. It's like, I'm gonna tell you how to make much money. I figured out a way to make much money and it's worked so well for me. The idea is so good, guys. I'm gonna tell you in 1 second. Just hold on. While I tell you this groundbreaking idea, and he never really gets to it, and in the meantime he's showing off his own wealth and everything to show you that, see, I am rich and you could be like me too if only you do what I'm about to tell you in a few seconds. Let's see where this is going. My spidey senses are already tingling.
Odds of getting hired, and I break it all down in our new masterclass called Exploit the System.
Okay, it's a course. Okay. Yeah, okay.
With over 90 plus lessons in the same binge-worthy documentary style you've come to love, Exploit.
I kind of feel bad like coming down on this aspect of the video because like I feel like this has been good context to react. So it's really put a lot of things in perspective, making me think about things that I might not ordinarily just bring up in conversation, but it's having to broach the topic and having to talk about it really makes me like think and also like say what I'm thinking as I'm thinking it. So I do appreciate the content, but I don't agree with everything about it. And this is part of some things that, you know, kind of rub me off the wrong way. My personal pet peeves.
Exploit the System is the best course out there on going remote because not only did it work for me at 19, but it's also worked for our students, like Alex K, who landed a $25 digital marketing job while living in South Africa. where $25 an hour is the equivalent of making around $75 an hour in America, and he did it in just 40 days. Or take John S. John was struggling with interviewing for work-from-home jobs, but after going through the masterclass, quote, I was able to land my first work-from-home position with higher pay, equity in the company, and many other benefits, end quote. I followed up with John less than a year later, and this is what he had to say. Quote, I was actually just promoted to a solutions engineering role this week, and the company just entered a merger deal for over $1 billion. So I'm being bought out of my equity at $7 a share from the $2 a share when I joined in March. And it has also opened doors at other SaaS companies such as Stripe. Can't thank you enough for the amazing course and value that you provide, end quotes. The reason why this masterclass is so effective is because everything we go over is extremely unorthodox to everything they teach you. And it
again, I don't have anything specific to pick on this. It just really rubbed me off the wrong way. I think I'm just overly cynical due to past experiences, if I must say, that whenever I hear things like this, it's just like, okay, sure, oh, of course, yeah, sure. But, you know, we can get through this, guys. Power on.
Covers everything you need to start from zero. We cover which work-from-home job would be the best fit for you. We cover the fastest way to learn your work-from-home job from...
I'm just gonna put the link to this in the description, and you guys could learn more about it if you so desire. So, you know, I don't want to be coming down on somebody else's ads after watching their video and reacting to it. So, you know, but yeah, I'm just gonna skip past that. 14-day money back guarantee, yes, he says that there. And oh wait, there's a disclaimer. Okay. This video does not provide investment or economic advice and is not professional advice, legal, accounting, or tax. The owner of this content is not an investment advisor. Discussion of any securities trading or markets is incidental and solely for entertainment purposes. Nothing herein shall constitute a recommendation, investment advice, or an opinion on suitability. The information in this video is provided as of the data of its initial release. The owner of this video expressly disclaims all representation or warrants of accuracy. So, you know, you take that for what you will. Life inside Russia's most brutal prison. That looks interesting. But yeah. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching and sticking with me through this video. It was an 18 minute video. Well, you know, we did our thing. We wanted to like make it an hour long as usual. But yeah, I had fun talking about it. I would like to see what you guys do think about it in the comment section, so maybe we can have some back and forth. I was gonna do like a couple reactions in at a go, but we'll spend so much time on this. Maybe I'll just do one more, and then I'll call it a night. But yeah, deuces.